Good afternoon. My name is Daniela Staicu, and I'm an associate professor at the Bucharest University of Economic Studies, the Faculty of Business Administration in Foreign Languages. So welcome to the third panel today. Thank you very much for your patience. I would like to ask also the third panelist to join the table, because I only see two out of three, and the fourth one, it's a pre-recorded intervention. So, John Dovelos, if you are here, yeah, please, yes, take a seat. Thank you. Before introducing our panelists, I would like to make some short remarks meant to highlight how much pressure it's on transportation when it comes to energy transition. In 2022, I worked with Ms. Eugenia Gushilov on a research dedicated to sustainable transportation prepared for the European Institute of Romania. And our research, though it has almost 2 years, is much related to the topic of our panel today. It deals mainly with energy transition in the transportation sector, and I'll just give a bit of insight in case you are interested in more. It's available on the European Institute of Romania website. So in the transportation sector, decarbonization of road transport is the primary objective of the European Union until 2035, an ambition that member states must put into practice. Therefore, the discussion in the transportation sector focuses on alternative fuels like biofuels, electricity, synthetic compressed natural gas, liquefied natural gas, and related charging and refueling infrastructure. Alternative fuels play a key role in decarbonization of transportation because they have several benefits at once. They reduce air pollution, mitigate climate change, and assist the EU countries, Romania included, in weaning off from the dependency on Russian gas, oil, and refined products. Repower EU package, adopted in May 2022 as a response to Russia's military aggression in Ukraine, is Europe's roadmap to end reliance on Russian gas by 2027. In the EU's view, the main instrument for gaining energy independence from Russia is to accelerate energy transition. Our study, which I mentioned earlier, shows the important challenges that Romania faces related to the modernization of this sector and discusses the various aspects of this accumulated gap. To close my remarks, I would like to add that in the context of Russia's war against Ukraine, the neighbor with whom Romania shares the second largest border, 649 kilometers, regional connectivity is a maximum emergency, especially with respect to the railway and river components. Cooperation with Ukraine on transport infrastructure will be featured high on the European agenda going forward, both as Ukraine moves ahead as an EU candidate country, but also in the context of the ongoing war, where a strong interconnected regional infrastructure is required to support Ukraine fight the aggression and the subsequent post-war reconstruction effort. So this was like a sneak peek into our research. If you're interested, it's available on the European Institute of Romania website under the title, and I'll mention it in Romanian, Interconectivitatea în Uniunea Europeană, provocări pentru viitorul politicilor de transport în 2030. Now, it's time to introduce our first panelist today, and we welcome George Satlas from the Greece-Bulgaria Interconnector. You have the floor, or, well, the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. I have the privilege to be the first speaker of the last session, which I understand is a bit tiring, but I will do my best to entertain you and enlighten you with some information of what's going on in the transportation of gas in the region. So, ICGB is the interconnector Greece-Bulgaria. It started as a project in 2012 as an idea, but the tender happened during 2019, and we managed to start operation in 2022 because in the meantime it was pandemic, war in Ukraine, a lot of geopolitical stuff happening. This is a part of our gas metering station in Komotini, Greece. You can see those flags there, here and there. It's a Greek flag, Bulgarian flag, and also Italian flag. Why? Because it's a complex project. The shareholders are 50% Bulgarian state and 50% company based in Greece, which part of it is DEPA International Projects, Greek state, and part of it is Edison in Italy. So what is the strategic significance of this interconnector Greece-Bulgaria? First of all, we have network users that from start of the operation, they transfer more than 1/3 of the domestic gas demand in Bulgaria. Second, we managed to reduce the dependency of gas, of energy sources in Bulgaria, and we allowed LNG, it will come actually, and Azeri gas to reach Bulgaria, increasing the liquidity of the Bulgarian gas market from day one. Well, like I said, we became the first import route for Bulgaria, even from the first month of operation. And by doing that, we enable the reduce of CO2 emissions in Bulgaria. Bulgaria is a country that is coal dependent. What people and the government were trying to reduce that. Actually, together with Greece, it was one of the countries that had the most advanced in using renewable sources, but also transmission sources. Next, we can say that the capacity right now is 3 BCM per year. We're trying to expand this to 5 BCM per year to accommodate the energy needs in the area. And what we're also trying to do, we're trying to check how we can be repurposed for hydrogen transmission, either through a percentage or full, depending on the policies and the situation. Lastly, what I can say is that since the start of operation, we have transferred more than 1.5 billion cubic meters of natural gas. Actually, it's 1.88 right now. We are seeing demand reducing nowadays. That is mostly due to low energy prices and full storage capacities in Europe. So commercially, what we are doing when we're trying to establish this expansion of the pipeline, what we have seen is that for 2023-2024 gas years, we have a capacity sold already of 80% of our 3 BCM. The total network users are 40. We are doing the quasi-yearly, quasi-quarterly capacity because right now we have 2 interconnection points in Greece. One is with the TAP and one is with DESFA. The one with DESFA is not currently working. It will be operated when the LNG starts from Alexandroupolis. And we offer this capacity on competing basis. And for the full year, what we have seen is that for Q3 and Q4, the capacity is up to 90%. So I will try to explain a bit with this map the geopolitics and how this works and why ICGB is a crucial part of what we are discussing now, the security of energy in the area. So we see Greece and Bulgaria, which are the two, let's say, stakeholders of IGB. We see gas flowing from TANAP to TAP, mainly Azeri gas. And also we see on the other side the gas reaching to Italy and via virtual trading also going back to, let's say, our system and going north. So the other thing is that through LNG terminals, the one in Revithousa that is currently operating and the one in Alexandroupolis that will come during the next month most probably, will increase this supply of gas. We're going through Romania. Romania is very important because as you already know better than me, it's also a producer of gas, but Romania has connection to other countries like Hungary and connection also to Moldova. And from Moldova, we can move to Ukraine, and then we can move even to Slovakia and back to Hungary. So all this that you can see depicted here is what we call the vertical gas corridor. And as Mr. Stambolis also mentioned, it was defined, let's say, in 2015 with only 3 countries. But you see here, there are more than 7 countries involved in this system. So what are the challenges ahead for the interconnector Greece-Bulgaria? First of all, we're running this process under the ENCOG, which is the network, the European network system for the gas operators, and we're trying to find out how we can expand and increase the capacity. And second of all, we're trying to work with hydrogen. So we are already part of the European Hydrogen Alliance, and we're trying to find out how we can use our pipeline to transfer hydrogen, either by blending up to 15% or, depending on the situation, full. So that's why the previous presentation by Suzu was very interesting. So all in all, IGB is a reality, and it operates from October 2022. And its role, it's obvious from what we presented that it's very significant, and the collaboration with the TSOs in the area. With that, I will try to entertain you a bit with a small quiz. So, how many executives do you think that coordinated during the CESEC in Athens in January for this vertical corridor to become a reality? One might say 4. Yes, I heard some 4, because 4 were the initial, let's say, stage, 7, which are the countries. But no, as you rightfully said, there are 10 executives for the TSOs, and you can see all of them there. And I can assure you, as a takeaway of this presentation, that one of the most difficult parts is to try to coordinate between all these people who had a kind of meeting, who have workshops, but we're going there. And with this, I would like to thank you very much for attending this presentation. Hopefully, we'll have a better discussion later. Thank you.
All right, so thank you. It ended quite nice. So let's hear some questions for Mr. Satlas. If you have already, that would be good to ask now, when it's still fresh in our minds, please. Yes, please. Do we need a microphone? Yeah, there.
Thank you. What are the countries that from what countries was the gas until now imported? From what countries flows the gas?
Mainly it's from Azerbaijan, because it's the Azeri gas that comes through TANAP and through TAP. So, however, I've seen quantities also from other countries in the area. What was tough, and I will take this question, is that earlier in the year it was last year there was a tax in Bulgaria regarding Russian gas. So that was a bit tricky on how we will impose this tax and how we will identify where the gas come from. So we have to resolve this with all the providers, and we have to ask them the origin of the gas. Actually, none of them declared that it was coming from Russia. We had some Turkmenistan or other countries, but that was it. The LNG is supposed to be coming in maybe April or May, when the terminal will start operating. Right now it's in commissioning phase. The terminal is established. What is important is that we will use, because also, as I said, our interconnection point with the Greece TSO is not still active. It has been done, but it's not operating. So it will operate when the gas will come from the LNG terminal, because of the difference in pressure. So the gas will come, and then we'll have blended gas coming both from the LNG terminal and from TAP.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, Eugenia.
question will be quick. I'm more curious because you saw that it's operational. I mean, IGB is operational since October 2022. And I would be curious if you could give us a number as to the volume of gas transited by IGB, I mean, through IGB that reached Moldova. I mean, the volume of the gas with the destination Moldova. 2023.
It happened through the last quarter of 2022. I mean, immediately after we started operating during December, we saw some quantities that was transferred through our network and went to Moldova, because we also saw that there was a shipper from Energycom from Moldova that also showed interest, and they transferred directly with us. But I don't know the full quantities, to be honest, but it was interest back then, and it also in the later days, they also transfer some gas, but they have made this connection, let's say, directly with DEPA, which is the commercial gas operator in Greece. And the mainly use of this gas was to energize their electricity power plants.
But you have no statistics as to the months when more gas transited?
It was during the winter period. Yes.
All right, and I'll have a question too. So on your map, there was Romania, Moldova, Ukraine. What can you say about challenges in communication with authorities or stakeholders from all these countries?
Okay, it was what I presented, that there are challenges there because of the different regulative frameworks, because of these projects. Sometimes, you know, that infrastructure projects, they need time, they need money. So the funding is very crucial, but we have seen that all the parts, they want to communicate and facilitate this route, because it's very important for the energy security.
All right, thank you. Is there another question? All right, thank you for your contribution, and we will come back to Romania and welcome Otilia Nutu from Expert Forum. Otilia, the floor is yours. We'll proceed the same. Otilia will have her presentation, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thanks to everybody who had the patience and the courage to stay until to stay this late. I will talk a little bit about the challenges that we are facing in the Romanian energy system, which I think to some extent they are common to all the countries inside the EU, but more so in Romania, particularly because it was a former communist country which overdeveloped its industry and energy intensive industry until 1989. So the big legacy that we are facing now in our energy system is the fact that the whole energy system, regardless of whether we are talking about electricity or gas or oil, was meant to supply a very highly energy intensive industry with very little regard for household consumption. And you have there an old map of where our industry was located. And what you can see, even though it's not very clear, is the fact that in general, energy intensive industry was being formed where there was a big resource, and there you had also developed a big consumption. And that has a big impact on how you design the networks, the gas grids, the oil infrastructure, and also the electricity grids. Now, if we think about how the consumption was before 1989, I can give you a very simple example. Electricity was rationed, and it was less than 5% of the total electricity consumption in the country. In 2022, it was 29%. So all these developments have not been fully taken into account in the development of the energy system in the past 3 decades. Why hasn't it happened so? It's because we had problems with very lengthy processes of developing infrastructure. So if you see the large projects that we have, regardless of whether it's the development of gas grids or electricity grids or power plants, you see that the same projects have been on the table for 20 years. So if they are taken up now and they are based on the blueprints that were before 1989, they might not fit the purpose of consumption today. So we actually face two challenges. First of all, to catch up with the developments in the patterns of demand until now, and then from here now, from now on, to go to 2050, where we need to achieve climate neutrality. So these are the three key mistakes which appear constantly in our energy policy, or the lack thereof, because as you know, we don't really have an energy strategy. And we see, for example, that, and I will give you a little bit later some examples. If you look at the projects which are financed even with European funds on district heating networks, on gas grids, on electricity grids, they are built on projects designed very many years ago. Then a second problem is the fact that we have a large share of the energy sector in public hands as state-owned enterprises, and there is a tendency to protect them against private competition, and I will give you some examples later. And this happened because we didn't have large-scale privatizations in the power generation sector, and we have designed duopoly in the oil and gas production. We also consider ourselves that we are rich enough to go through two transitions. So instead of, let's say, taking the advantage that we are rather primitive in our energy system and jump directly to technologies which would be up to date also in the next decades, we are trying now to catch up with projects which would have made sense in the early 2000s. And then from these projects to shift again to new infrastructure within the next 30 years. And we have this misconception that the goal is when, for example, we are talking about coal phase out, that we need to replace 1 megawatt with another megawatt, but a little bit cleaner, without considering the fact that, hey, maybe the demand is a little bit different. So these are two typical examples. For example, district heating in Bucharest, which is, I think it's I'm a fan of district heating, and I think it's one of the means by which you can decarbonize heating in and cooling in residential areas. But the problem is that if you are trying to update and upgrade, mostly with cost adjustments, the blueprints and designs which were made 20 years ago, then you don't take into account how the city has developed. What is the current heat demand for today? Maybe there are some other areas in which you need to expand the grid. Maybe there are some ways in which you can integrate renewables. And the problem is that our system is actually second generation, whereas in Western Europe, they are developing fourth or fifth generation district heating systems, which include renewables, geothermal, solar, and a lot of other technologies, and it's much more decentralized. The same thing happens also with the electricity grid. If you look at all the reports that were, and all the 10-year network development plans of Transelectrica for the past 20 years, you see, for example, that the priority continues to be the ring of 400 kilovolt and other lines. For example, I remember when I started working in energy more than 20 years ago, the same priorities for substations were being discussed as they are today. And I'm going to talk a little bit also about this problem, that it's actually an institutional problem that makes us think this way. For example, we have state-owned companies which are for which the Ministry of Energy is a shareholder, and there is a conflict of interest actually between the role and function of the Ministry of Energy as a designer of a policy in energy, which has to deal also with developing markets, competition, energy efficiency, and so on, and being a shareholder, which means optimizing the value of your own companies. This is something that we can see in all the projects that are proposed by the ministry, for example, and also in the plans that we are proposing for EU funding. Every single plan that we are submitting to the European Commission for funding, whether it's the first version of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan or the proposals for the Transition Fund, you see that the first versions are, let's give this much money to Hydroelectrica, this much money to CE Oltenia, without considering the idea that you have to give competitive state aid to whoever can provide the same service with a better quality. This is also visible in the grid access. For example, Transelectrica has to take into account all the official plans, like, for example, that units 3 and 4 are going to be built, Tarnica is going to be built, and so on, which unfortunately do not materialize. Yes, when a private sector investor wants to connect to a specific point in the grid, they receive a pushback from the grids saying that, oh, there isn't enough capacity here because we are going to build these plants anyway. We also see the plans for the development in the Black Sea, in which the state actually mandated its state-owned company to form a joint venture with a private company. So instead of trying to open the market to more competitors, we see that we are regrouping to the same players. And then we are wondering why the competition in the wholesale market doesn't work that well. Well, if you increase the concentration, then you have a problem. And you have a very specific example for regarding now there are two pretty equivalent projects. One is developed by Hydroelectrica, a solar plant, another by a private company, also a large-scale project above 1 gigawatt. So on one hand, Hydroelectrica gets preferential access to land from a state-owned entity, whereas the private competitor has to procure the land on a competitive market, and the private competitor also has to deal with additional barriers like restrictions on the use of agricultural land. The public sector company Hydroelectrica is favored when there is a discussion about funding from EU funds. The private company has to source its funding in the free market without any kind of state aid. So this is a picture in which the government is actually protecting its state-owned companies against any private competition. The second mistake that we are making is the fact that we consider that when you shut down a plant, you have to put exactly an equivalent capacity in the same place. So this is very clear from the restructuring of Oltenia, in which that's the lazy solution, because you think that if you replace the capacity with the exact equivalent, then you don't have to do anything with the grids. Yes, but then you don't take into account the fact that maybe the demand is not there as it used to be. And maybe you need to produce electricity closer to the consumption, yes, in cities, more distributed. And the problem that comes from this idea is also the fact that if you are replacing a large power plant with an equivalent power plant, you need to make it also very controllable. And that limits the fuels that you can take in. Yes, so you can only replace coal with gas. And then you say that maybe sometime in a distant future we could replace it with hydrogen, but you don't have enough certainty that there will be enough hydrogen for this. So there is no discussion, in a holistic manner, how the demand changes. What are the alternatives for this intermittence of renewables? Maybe you can introduce flexible demand. Maybe you need to take into account various forms of storage, not only batteries, but there are so many technologies which are being tested now on European markets. So what are the causes for this, let's say, delay in thinking in the Romanian policy making? First of all, it's the institutional legacy. And it's the fact that, we used to have in communist times, one entity, the ministry, which was taking care of the entire sector, which was then split in ministry, companies, and regulator. But still, the people have the same ties. So you cannot have an independent regulator who knows everybody in the regulated industry. So that's one of the problems. Of course, state-owned companies are also relatively more unionized than private sector companies. So there is a very strong lobby, for example, from the coal industry to keep things as they are. There is also a problem of relative loss of competence after accession in the EU, simply because when we are trying to enter the EU, we had to negotiate accession chapters, energy being one of them. So they had to keep very competent people to do that. But then once this pressure was off, there was a very high temptation to politicize and give key positions to your friends. And of course, we shouldn't forget the disease of Europe right now, which is populism, and which we saw very strongly last year with the energy prices, but there has been for a much longer period with the reliance of on our own resources, or on foreigners are coming to take our country. So what is the result? Our energy policy, to the extent there is a policy, it's kind of getting more and more decoupled from the EU, and this is why we have this very much pushback from the European Commission when we are trying to lower all the time the expectations on renewables, for example, or on energy efficiency. We also see a delay in the coal phase out. You saw probably how the legislation has changed, but de facto we are kind of keeping the power plants, even though they are kind of walking zombies right now, but we are keeping them alive. And we saw many years of delay in the renewables development. For example, there was no investment between 2017 and 2022. And various forms of market distortions, such as price regulations and unfair competition from state-owned companies. What we have in addition to that, we have these projects which related to gas consumption, which relate to the development of gas grids for households, and also replacing all coal-fired plants with gas-fired plants. Just one company, which is being considered, would consume about a quarter of the current consumption of gas right now if it materializes. So you can imagine that if all these plans come to fruition, then we are going to, unlike anybody else in Europe, we are going to double our gas consumption by 2030. So I'm going to end with an optimistic note, to put it this way. So what is the hope? And actually, the hope comes from unexpected places. Still, because of the high energy prices and the fact that energy is badly needed in Romania and in the region, you have in the past 2 years very rapid development in spite of the state. I consider here also the prosumers, for which you saw all the problems with the state program, and also investments, utility scale investments in renewables, which took off last year. We also have some good external anchors in infringements from the European Commission when things go really off. And we also have the funding criteria for EU funds, which kind of blocked all the previous attempts to direct funds to state-owned companies without taking into account competition. We also have the benefit of regional interconnectivity, which was significantly improved in both in electricity and in gas in the past several years. And we also have pure luck. And I'm showing here something which was pure luck. This is what happened after the synchronization of Ukraine and Moldova with the European grid. So as you remember, when that happened on the 16th of March, it was a pretty ad hoc decision. It was quite rushed. And the reason why it wasn't immediate was the fact that there were some uncontrolled flows between the two blocks. That means that energy was simply kind of flowing freely to a certain extent. And this is why for several months there was a gradual increase of commercial transactions, because otherwise these uncontrolled flows would have destabilized the systems. But what happened was the fact that these uncontrolled flows consisted of electricity which was escaping from Dobroja, which is an area where we have a lot of renewables. It was going through Odessa, and then it was pushed back to this part where we have a big consumption. So one of the problems that we couldn't transport renewable energy from here to the west of the country was kind of solved because of these uncontrolled flows. So luck also plays a role in the decarbonization of our system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so let's hear some questions for our second panelist today. Kaan, I know you still have the energy, all right, inside of you. So I have a question, but I'll keep it the last one.
What you mentioned about the Ukraine and Moldova during the INTCOE network, we in Ukraine and Moldova called the leap of faith, because nobody knew what would happen. We were connected to the Russian and Belarus electric grids, like from the time of its creation, and it basically saved a lot of people. And I'm not over-exaggerating, in Ukraine during the missile attacks on the energy infrastructure in Ukraine in the winter of 2022. But my question concerning, do you mean that it is more efficient to transfer the energy from Dobruja to Cluj-Napoca all the way around through the Lviv and Burstin energy island, through Hungary and back to Romania, or it doesn't concern only renewable energy sources?
So this is what happened. I'm not saying it was efficient, but it was kind of happening, and we reduced consumption of coal and gas-fired power plants because of that happening. Of course, that was something that was only temporary. You know, once we start controlling these flows, these things don't happen anymore. But indeed, if you have a serious bottleneck which causes huge costs inside the Romanian grid, then there might be more economically efficient means to transfer like this. So let's say that interconnectivity definitely brings up new alternatives. And if anything happens on a power line, then you have other ways to transport electricity. So this both optimizes the use of the power generation, but also increases the energy security overall.
And I'll ask my question. You said that, and you are perfectly right. We keep seeing certain projects rolled over from one strategy and network development plan into the other, and 10 years later, 20 years later, they're still the same. Nothing changes that much. Exactly. So my question to you is, do you think there are at least 3 projects from the old ones from 20 years ago that do merit to be pushed forward, or all of them are out of tune with the new thinking, and we should change the paradigm altogether?
I'm not saying that all the projects are bad, definitely. But what you need to take into account is the fact that we are in 2024. And you need to take into account the projection of demand in the future, and how. So we shouldn't fall into the sunk cost illusion. If we have had this project on the table for so long, then we need to continue it. Or if we have invested into something for so long, we need to continue investing into it. So you need to judge the merit of a particular project considering today, and not what has happened in the past. The problem is that the only adjustments, for example, when you see the updates to a feasibility study, this is the eternal story. The only adjustments are marginal. Yes, you see how much have the costs for materials increased, how much has the demand kind of changed, but without considering the long-term developments. What I'm very concerned is the fact that we don't take into account at all that electricity consumption is going to increase massively. So it's not some projects might actually make much more sense than in the past, and we don't give them merit for that. It would probably make more sense to think a little bit, and this is how I view the European strategy doing. The fact that you take into account what are the sectors which can be more easily decarbonized, what are the shifts in the fuels that you are going to do, and then you plan the infrastructure taking into account those ideas. So every project has to be rejudged based on its merits today, and not from the fact that this is the plan that we had 50 years ago. Yes. So that's my concern, for example, with Tarnica. Yes. Or even with reactors 3 and 4. Is there a plan? Is there a justification apart from the fact that for this there is already a project, or for the reactors 3 and 4 there is already an infrastructure developed there? It's fine, but you need to take into account the conditions today.
All right, and briefly, like in a nutshell, what would you say is moving too slow, and what do you think is moving fast when it comes to energy transition? Just a few areas quickly. So too slow, and I wanted to say too fast, but there is no too fast. So too slow and fast. Yeah.
Well, first of all, if you have a functioning market, then there are developments which happen quite naturally. For example, high energy prices signal to you that there is too little energy available for the consumption that there is in the market. That means it would make sense if you are an investor to look for a possibility to invest. If you are a consumer, to look for energy efficiency measures. I see that there are a lot of efforts from the industry to increase their energy efficiency. From households, even before there were programs to make their homes much more efficient. From prosumers, I think what stimulated prosumers was not necessarily the program, but the fact that people were concerned that they are going to have huge electricity bills or heating bills. So these are the things that happen faster. And what is too fast is the fact that the grids do not catch up with it, and there isn't enough stimulus for that. Too slow, in general, when you have projects which are delayed for so many years, and I'm talking both in terms of networks, but also, for example, Romgaz with its power plant at Iernut. It has been delayed for 5 years. Yes. How can you, and then you have to ask yourself some questions, including in the capacity of the state to build other projects from now on. Yes. Reactors 3 and 4. We've been talking about them for 15 years. Is it going to happen in the future? And or Tarnica. And the problem is that there are a lot of foregone opportunities because we don't move ahead with it. And I was mentioning the fact of problems with access to the grids. Yes, if Transelectrica tells you cannot build something in Dobroja because we are going to have their reactors 3 and 4, then you block the development even of offshore wind, for example. Yeah, so that's the trap.
All right, thank you so much. I would like also to acknowledge the students who are in the room. I forgot to do that in the beginning, from the Bucharest University of Economics. I want to acknowledge because, it takes a lot of courage to come among experts and pay attention for the whole day. Of course, they skipped a bit of school, but they are here, and raise your hand. I saw you from the beginning to end, and I think it's, thank you for coming and for being curious about a subject which is kind of hard to understand if you're not introduced to it, but it's hot. So it's gonna be on your agenda too in the future. All right, our third panelist, thank you for being so patient, is John Dovelos from Asprofos Engineering, one of the companies supporting this event today. Thank you so much. And it's geothermal energy. We close with this subject today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very good chance for me to introduce Asprofos Engineering in this very interesting conference. I will not. I will have 3 phases. First of all, with 2 words, I will tell you. I will try to introduce Asprofos in 2 words. Asprofos Engineering is the engineering company of the group Hellenic Energy, ex-Hellenic Petroleum Group. Was formed in 1983 as a joint venture between Aspro, is coming from the Asprofos refinery, and Fos is coming for the Foster Wheeler. Asprofos, so it's a joint venture between Asprofos and Foster Wheeler for the upgrade of the refinery of Asprofos. We have been involved in many oil and gas projects for natural gas, for refineries, etc. Because the Hellenic Energy Group owns 3 refineries, 2 in Athens, in Elefsina and Asprofos, and 1 in Thessaloniki. And also we have been involved with natural gas transmission system, with truck loading and storage facilities for retails and petroleum products. And this period, the last 4 or 5 years, we're trying, because the Hellenic Petroleum was transferred in Hellenic Energy, due to the fact that he has many, let's say, installation right now with renewables. We have, for instance, 250 megawatts photovoltaic park in Kozani. We have in Cyprus and Romania and in Greece 370 megawatts of wind farms and photovoltaic parks. Also, the Hellenic Energy Group was is in progress one very, very optimist project called Vision 25, on which he would like to increase the percentages of the renewables and the energy, like photovoltaics and wind farms, and as well to upgrade the petroleum products coming from the refineries in order to increase the decarbonization facts, let's say, the decarbonization involvement of the group. In Thessaloniki, for instance, the refinery of Thessaloniki, where right now is under construction a unit for hydrotreated vegetal oils. Also, we are trying to produce aviation fuels with low, let's say, contents in carbon. And generally, Hellenic Energy is trying to be involved in, as I told you, with this vision in renewables and in production electricity. In our plans, until 2025, we want to produce 1 gigawatt electricity, and in combined with renewables and natural gas, and in 2030, 2 gigawatts. Now, this is for I don't know if it's interesting for you to just to have some information about Hellenic Energy, but in regards with geothermal energy, I will transfer to you my experience from working for 10 years in the geothermal department of Institute of Geology and Mineral Exploration from Greece in geothermal department, in low enthalpy geothermal department. Geothermal is not has not been developed in Greece. The development of geothermal energy in Greece was not according to the possibilities and to the capabilities of this kind of, let's say, energy. Geothermal is low and high enthalpy. Low enthalpy, you can use it for district heating, for greenhouses, etc. And in some cases, you can also produce electricity. There are some technologies right now, especially from Sweden, which are producing from water of 90 degrees electricity. And of course, with the high enthalpy means that we have waters above 150 degrees Celsius. Greece is very, very rich in high enthalpy because we have the arc of Aegean, the volcanic arc of Aegean Sea, which is starting from Nisyros. Nisyros is an island near Rhodos, and is passing from Santorini and is finishing to Sousaki. Sousaki is the place behind the refinery of motor oil in Corinthos. In Milos and in the Nisyros, we tried from 1975. We make some wells, which at the head of the well, the temperature in Milos is 260 degrees Celsius, and in Nisyros 320. From environmental reasons and from, I don't know, this is, of course, it's not my business to criticize the Public Power Corporation of Greece, but for many reasons, nothing was developed in this part of producing electricity from geothermal energy. Besides this, especially in northern Greece, there was many greenhouses, private greenhouses, with tomatoes and cucumbers and vegetables, etc. But not one application of district heating. Beside the district heating, I know here in Romania it's very popular. Central district heating of houses. In Greece, everybody is arranging his own house. So it was a little bit difficult to apply the, let's say, district heating for houses using geothermal waters. From the other hand, the geothermal waters of low enthalpy, mainly in northern Greece, we have temperatures starting from 100 degrees in Alexandroupoli and up to 40 and 50 degrees in the Ceres area of around Thessaloniki. The quality of the waters are not so good. We have many problems with corrosion, with scaling. And if you, together with the, how can I say it, with the government, all governments' policies, it's a very bad mixture of interest. I mean, this is the reason that the geothermal was not developed in Greece, geothermal energy, I mean. I don't know now if something is going to be in application in regard, but I'm not so optimist. There are many problems. We have the geological, let's say, information, but we have a lot of missing feasibility studies in regard with applications. I mean, nobody knows how much will cost one, let's say, 10 megawatts power plant using geothermal energy. Besides, from Balkan countries, Turkey, according to my information, are very advanced in application of geothermal energy producing electricity. This is the situation. Sorry for the. I was not prepared any kind of presentation because from the beginning it was not scheduled to make a presentation in the conference. Asprofos is a supporter of this conference, and Eugenia, together with Costis,
yeah, she can be
they
quite
asked
convincing.
me to make some, let's say, an intervention. With,
But I think that was very good to close with this topic because it hasn't been treated today. So even if it's not on a high note because of many issues, I think it's good that it's been mentioned and
yes.
it can be explored.
Yes.
Okay. John, thank you very much, even if it's been last minute.
Okay, thank you. And also, I would like to express my, it's very, very strange for me because in March 1976, I came in Romania for studies.
Okay.
And it was It's very curious. I mean, it was. I came from Thessaloniki in Bucharest in March 1976, and then I was traveling in Suceava for learning the Romanian language, and then.
All right, so next year in maybe a bit in Romanian too. That's the challenge. All right, thank you for.
If I can answer any kind of questions in regards with Hellenic energy and geothermal, I'm open. Okay.
Okay. Good. So we have a pre-recorded presentation as well. It belongs to our fourth panelist who could not join us physically today, Mr. Costas Theofylaktos.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, this presentation is a pre-recorded one, as COVID virus kept me in Athens. The presentation has to do with energy efficiency and the important role that energy efficiency plays today. All of you are aware of the importance of energy efficiency. For example, Frans Timmermans, Executive Vice President for the European Green Deal, mentioned that saving energy is a key step to saving the planet. So you understand that one, how important it is. And based on that, European Commission and the member states, they prepare the European Green Deal policy and the targets for 2030. Also, they are working on revising important directives regarding energy. One of them is the Energy Efficiency Directive. The first one was adopted in 2012. Then it was recasted twice in 2018 and in 2023. The last recast, that one issued in September 2023, established the fundamental policy of EU energy policy, call it energy efficiency first. Also, in this directive, we have a stronger focus on alleviating energy poverty that was not existing before. To optimize the energy saving in the industrial and not only sector, including buildings and so on, the directive expands the scope of energy audits obligation to include all those companies, regardless of their size, who are consuming energy above a certain threshold. That changing radically the existing policy, because until now, the energy audits is for the companies that they are large ones, 250 employees and more, or 50 million budget per year. Another one, this directive makes energy management system mandatory requirement for large industrial energy consumers. This means that those large industrial consumers can monitor and optimize their energy efficiency. But still, some drawbacks and barriers still exist. One, for example, is the mandatory obligation of the audited company to implement some or all of the energy efficiency measures proposed by energy auditors. It is common in Greece that, okay, we finish with the energy audit, we have the study, we put it in our drawer, and then after 4 years, we are doing another audit. That one is something that we should work to solve it. For this reason, LIFE program, funded by the European Union, proposed a program called Audit to Measure. In Audit to Measure, there are companies and there are companies from Greece, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Germany, and Czech Republic that we are working to uptake the energy audit's recommendations for the energy transition of companies. Actually, we are trying to speed up the uptake of energy efficiency measures from the energy audits. So it is a project, 36 months of almost 2 million euros with all those countries, and from and we examine in a details energy audits from all those countries to see how we can implement those, what is the techniques to implement those for the companies, especially in the industrial sector. So actually what we want to do to pave the way towards a sustainable production and environmental being integrated route. This is the main thing that we have in our minds. It is a project that we, first of all, we create a strategy to see how the audit is working in Europe. Then we build capacity, and then we create training for supporting the industries in the area of energy efficiency, and then we are supporting industries on issues regarding the energy audit results, energy audit saving measures. So some key findings: high energy costs are a serious concern of most of the companies that we audit. Most surveyed companies view their climate commitments as positive and are aware of further saving potential. Energy saving investment decisions are mostly made by top management. That's important to keep it in mind, because the majority of the times the top management, they are not having technical background. So it's difficult to understand the importance of energy audit. And then we're trying to see the barriers. We're trying to see the barriers, like, for example, we're trying to see it is a part of behavioral, it is informational, organizational, it is economic, or how, for example, why energy management system is not in operation in the majority of the industries. Why ISO 50001 is lagging. Things like that. So, for example, then we see what is the state of the state of the auditors regarding the analysis. How the auditors they are doing the techno-economic analysis. For example, in Greece, we are working with life cycle cost analysis. This is not, for example, in Italy or in Netherlands, where ROE is playing more important role. So, and then we surveyed companies mostly implementing energy saving measures in the areas recommended by the auditor. We create a base where 3,500 energy saving measures are there. We get it from the audit reports in order to, without, of course, names and everything, respecting the according laws. And we're trying to see how we're going to make more efficient the implementation of energy audit. Now, concluding, in the project, we're trying to see what countries outside our 7 partners they are doing regarding this issue. So one of them is Romania. So we have a questionnaire that is 1 page, and we want your assistance. You know your country better than we do. So please, talk to Mr. Stambolis, and this is my email and my number. If you want to talk to me, I will appreciate very much your assistance. Thank you very much. Let me say that these 2 links are links for the project. Thank you very much indeed.
And to close this panel, I would like to make just a short comment. What I've noticed, apart from the takeaways from each panel, is that all these countries who are today in the room come with a legacy in energy, right? It's either institutional or in terms of resources, capabilities, infrastructure. I think one question that we should keep in mind is how can we take these challenges, which are similar but also diverse, and transform this in opportunities for the future. So we share common issues, common legacy. I think it's possible to take these challenges and transform them into opportunities. We saw first example today with our first panelist. So let's keep that in mind. And with this, we close the third panel. And Eugenia, what's next?
First, some conclusions of our event today, which I will say a few words, and then Costas, maybe you will also want to add something. I think we have accomplished our mission of taking the pulse of what is going on in our region. We have seen some statistical data, some comparisons between countries and how each are doing, how their energy mixes looked like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We have found out about geothermal potential in Greece and that it's underdeveloped. And let me tell you that in Romania it's the same. It's underdeveloped with the exception of Oradea and the Beiuș area, and like in the northwestern part of Romania. The rest we completely don't use it. Even if we have in the northern part of Bucharest this reservoir, geothermal reservoir.
Yes,
so yes, exactly. And while you had very nice words to say about our district heating, I don't want to disappoint you, but it's not what it used to be, in the sense that when communism ended, we had 300 cities and towns with district heating, and now we have 60. So I don't know if that's progress. But just to conclude, I would rather say that what these past 4 years showed us, they showed us that, and they have pushed us through changes at a speed that we were not prepared for, to make these changes, and still are not prepared. So the speed imprinted by the European Union through EU policy is fast, and sometimes our countries in the region find it as too fast. But just to give you an example, for instance, through the Repower EU package, Europe, the European Union, tries to cut in half our natural gas consumption. So if we were talking about 400 billion cubic meters consumed in the European Union in 2021, the Fit for 55 package was coming with provisions that would have cut 100 billion cubic meters, 98, 100, let's say. Then Repower comes and, takes 100 billion cubic meters more. So from 400 billion cubic meters that Europe was consuming, the EU, in 2021, we want to reach to 200 billion cubic meters of gas by 2027, by 2030, and to do away with Russian gas by 2027. That's ultra ambitious. And to do that, of course, we want to use hydrogen. We talked about hydrogen in the second panel. And hydrogen is supposed, we want to use LNG, and by using hydrogen, we're supposed to get rid of 50 billion cubic meters of Russian gas imports. We count, and American LNG helped us a lot. Then biomethane, biogas, demand reduction, and the industry efficiency measures, all that should come together so that the intention is to have us, get rid of our dependency on natural gas, and specifically natural gas from Russia, and in a very, very short window, right? I think that's a tremendous challenge, not for one country, for any country. And I hope, and I think that Romania will do, and we are in a good position, with the natural gas developments, with the prospects of nuclear energy, which I think has a tremendous role to play in all this, with the prospect of SMRs. We are well positioned to weather this storm and to land on the other side of this energy transition on our feet. That's what I would say to conclude our event today. Costas?
I would like to, first of all, thank the European the presentation, also for hosting the event. I think this is a very nice, centrally located place, very hospitable. I would also like to thank Eugenia for putting a lot of work
And the right team.
organizing this. We also helped a little, but Eugenia had the first sort of position in this effort. And this is the fourth event which we have been organizing with ROEC.
We started about 10 years ago with the nuclear conference, then presentation of Outlook. We had an event here in October 2019, and this is the fourth event. So as you'll see, somehow we have found a modus vivendi, the two organizations, and I think this works to our mutual advantage and to the advantage of the larger audience, which we are happy to invite and to share our thinking and our eagerness to advance things in the energy field in the broader region. So I think I keep this from this event, the good cooperation that we have established. This is, I believe, to the benefit of the broader audience in both countries and the broader region. And we had a very good exposition of the challenges which are lying ahead of us, new aspects of work coming in, like SMRs, like hydrogen, energy efficiency in transportation, for example. Transportation is going to become more and more central to the whole energy issue because it consumes so much big chunk of energy. So this is something we have to turn our attention to. So I think everybody became a little richer from today's interaction, and I thank everybody for staying so late to this event, and rendezvous next year or the year after. Okay, thank you. And of course, let me finally say a big thank you to our two hosts, Terna Energy, which you listened earlier, and Asprofos for supporting this event. Thank you very much.
And with this, we conclude our conference today. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.